Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm Jamie Dawn, your revolutionary astrologer, bringing you your celestial wisdom for the week of July 17th through the 23rd. It's a pretty big week ahead, and I will most likely do a video separate from this one to talk about Venus retrograde a little bit more in the sign of Leo, as well as the nodes of the moon changing signs from Taurus and Scorpio, which was the North Node in Taurus, Scorpio South Node, into Aries Libra. But I'm going to touch on that a little bit in this video. Before I jump into all the different energies that are happening, because we have a new moon this week to kick off the week, we've got the nodes changing signs, we've got the sun changing signs, and we've got an opposition of Mars and opposing Saturn. Then we've got Venus going retrograde. Big week. Okay, I want to make sure you have all the information. But before I jump in, I just want to mention that I am a guest on the show Backstage Pass on 12radio.com. That was with the host, Jay Varvel and Raven McKinnon. And so if you have a chance to tune in, I know there's going to be archives. The show was recorded and released on the 13th of this month. So just a few days ago before this video was released. But there are archives, so please have a chance to listen, check it out. It's my old radio home, and maybe one day I'll get back on there. But for now, thanks so much for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting on these videos here on YouTube. I am looking to increase the audience, so if you know somebody who might benefit from these videos, please share them, have them subscribe, have them watch, that sort of thing. Give me feedback on what else might be valuable to you. I'm happy to make changes. Big shout out again to my beautiful and amazing assistant, Joan, who does the edits for these videos. So thank you for that. And if whatever feedback you give me, if it serves, I'm going to implement it. And she is doing so beautiful. Hopefully you're enjoying the edits that she does. All right. So let's kick off this week with that new moon in Cancer. I mentioned it in my previous video. If this is your first time watching my videos, I'm going to give another recap. So, and thank you for being here. Now, as a reminder, during this new moon in Cancer, this is when the sun and moon in the sign of Cancer are canoodling, and it can create a lot of sensitivity because we're dealing with water signs here, and we're dealing with the moon being in its home, which is the sign of Cancer. So we may feel this need to nurture ourselves, maybe withdraw for a little bit, especially being a new moon or considered to be a dark moon. We may also be in a situation where we need to nurture others, maybe stand up for others, or be that mama bear, if you will. So just be careful, because our sensitivity can be at an all-time high. And maybe we need to have a little bit more of a gentle touch. Or maybe we need to have that mama bear that kind of jacks you up and says, hey, enough of this already, you know? We could also feel a little bit more homebody-ish. The interesting thing is that this new moon falls on a Monday, which is a moon day. So it's a day ruled by the moon. So this gives it a little bit more heightened feeling to it. Also, for those of you who are familiar with the Cancer energy, it can get a little moody, just like the phases of the moon as they change, right? So it may cause us to, at one minute, be happy, another minute be a little heavier, another minute to be whatever. It definitely invites an opportunity for us to express our emotions in a very different way. So if we can express them in a healthy way, then we can find relief. So if you feel this pent-up energy of worry, anxiety, whatever that may show up as, and then communicate them or express them in some way that is in a positive way, you'll find some outlet to it. Because remember, when we name something, it reduces the charge that it once had. Now, on Tuesday, just after this new moon is exact, we have the nodes of the moon changing signs. I mentioned that just a minute ago, from Taurus, Scorpio, to Aries, Libra. The nodes are always moving backwards through the signs. Now, let's just recap real quick. The North Node is what we're working towards. It's what we would say is our destiny, our path forward. It's where we put in the work in order to evolve on a very deep soul level. This is part of our purpose, what we're trying to accomplish. And the South Node is what we're integrating from the past. This is the tail of the dragon. This is our shadow work. This is the stuff that we've brought into this lifetime that maybe we need to let go of. And so then we're moving into the signs of Aries Libra. So pointing that North Node of what our purpose is, what we're working towards, is we're working towards more independence, more autonomy, more fearless leading. And in the South Node in Libra, so this is going to be over the next 18 months because the nodes change signs every 18 months. In the South Node in Libra, we're going to be working on intradependence and letting go of codependence. We're going to be working with relationships and still being individuals. We're going to look at where maybe we've compromised too much and start really getting our boundaries. We've been working with boundaries of that Scorpio South Node, but setting those boundaries, holding to them, but communicating them in a way that's a benefit to ourselves and those we're in relationship with. Maybe it's boundaries within our finances because Libra's ruled by Venus, and Venus has to do with our values. We're also going to be looking at ways that we maybe need to bring in more balance into our relationships because we've been overgiving. And now we need to take a little bit more. But remember, the glue that holds this together is going to be good communication, because we can't assume or expect our partners or our people we're in relationship with to read our minds as much as we want to. We want them to be intuitive. Sometimes we just have to be direct and ask for what we need or take what we need, but communicating it in a loving way. With that North Node in Taurus, South Node Scorpio energy, we should hopefully be feeling like we're moving forward with healing, giving attention to our basic needs, financial well-being, and the things that we valued most. That's what we've been working with the past 18 months. Now we get to start putting it into action with that North Node in Aries. Enough talk, start do. We can really see things accelerate when the North Node is in Aries, especially when it comes to innovation, pioneering efforts, doing and making our own decisions. Again, just be careful because Aries can be impulsive. And so what it invites us to do is not overthink things, right? So again, we want to work with relationships that are important to us, finding that equilibrium. That may be the challenge. So we're going to be doing this opposition, the seesaw between what I want versus what we want. It's that you versus me, or excuse me, you versus us energy that we're going to be working with. And then on Wednesday, July 19th, we've got the moon in Leo canoodling with Mercury and Venus in the sign of Leo as well, while Venus makes a trine to that North Node in Aries, giving us a real good taster of an opportunity to communicate. What do I need in order to show up, in order to shine? What are my gifts? What are my accomplishments? I need to communicate that, and I need to show my value here, not only in value in the team, but value in myself. Right? And I have a right to be here and I have a right to shine. It's a great time to connect to, if you're in relationship, to be able to have some form of connection with your beloved. If you're single, this is a great energy for mingling and for putting yourself out there and saying, I am who I am. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, oh, well. Now we've been feeling this build up too of Mars and Saturn opposition. Mars moved into Virgo on Monday of last week. So that was the 10th. And so now we're leading into an exact opposition of Mars and Saturn. Saturn's retrograde in Pisces, Mars in Virgo. And this is also when the moon is going to be in the sign of Virgo, canoodling or conjunct Mars. And so we want to use this energy wisely. We've probably been feeling this push and pull to get some things done and put them in a nice, neat order, while Saturn in Pisces is going to work on dissolving the structures that no longer serve us or that have been too rigid. We may feel this push and pull between trying to get things done and being productive and wanting to escape and not having the inspiration that we need in order to get some things done. Patience is going to be needed. Compassion is going to be needed here. That's where we can really use the Saturn and Pisces energy. Find that great compassion for ourselves and for others. Try not to force anything, because if you do, it's going to backfire. If we're trying to force something out of someone or trying to force a particular outcome, it may come back and bite us pretty big. So just pay attention to that. Once this energy moves off, where Mars moves out of this exact opposition, we'll feel some relief around it. But it's going to be important, especially leading up to Thursday, that we stay really grounded while taking decisive actions. And this can offer really good long-term healing effects. So stay grounded, make decisions, speak from a place of order, a place of healing. Remember, our words can harm or heal. This is also a time where we may have some unfulfilled desires and feel a little disappointed that we didn't get those things done. Remember, nothing is set in stone. We can continue to grow and change things. And if we're so attached to that particular outcome and it didn't happen, well, we're going to find ourselves highly emotional and maybe impulsive in getting critical about things, critical about ourselves, critical about others. So do pay attention to that. Remember, we want to come from a place of responsiveness versus reactivity. Friday, the moon is going to be making a brief trine to Jupiter as it starts to transit through Virgo a little bit more to make its ingress into Libra later on. But while it's making this trine to Jupiter, it can certainly offer expansion of emotions, maybe overinflation. Things may seem a little larger than life on Friday. This could be good or bad depending on how we navigate it. And so if someone that you're in relationship with, because we're working with those nodes again with the relationship node of South Node Libra, North Node Aries, if someone's being overly emotional with you, that's the time to really capitalize on this grounded energy of Virgo and Jupiter in Taurus, these earth signs, to be able to go, okay, let's take this one step at a time. Let's breathe. What do we want to do in order to become productive? Let me help, right? And just keep in mind, help isn't help when it's not asked for. You can offer, but don't force it. Saturday, not a lot of movement during the day, other than the moon will eventually make it into the sign of Libra. But the evening of Saturday into early Sunday morning, depending on where you live, the sun is going to ingress into the wonderful sign of Leo, and Mercury moves into a trine with Chiron. So we should start to feel a little bit lighter and moving into Sunday and more inspired and buoyant. When the sun is in Leo, it's at home. So it's going to have this expansive energy of creativity. We're encouraged to lead with our hearts, find ways in which we can let our creative expression shine and maybe even inspire others. So if you felt like there were some creative blocks, or you just haven't had that, energy to be out or extroverted, this is a time now where we may start to do that, because the sun moving through the sign of Cancer is homey and it wants to have the comforts and it has it's more introverted, right? So here we start to get a little more extroverted, we start to communicate more, we start to get more expressive, that sort of thing. So for the next 28 days, we'll hopefully get to enjoy a little boost in our energy levels. Now, let's talk about Venus retrograde. It happens Sunday as well, just after the sun ingresses into the sign of Leo. Now, the last time that Venus has stationed retrograde in Leo was 8 years ago. So think back to 2015. I know I'm stretching you a little bit, but take some time before we go into this retrograde to think back. Where were we? What was happening? What was the theme, if you will? And then, are there any things that came up during that time that need some closure here? Venus retrogrades through the same sign every 8 years. Remember that. It makes this pentagram in the sky. So here we are, 2023, looking at some of these themes. Honor who we are, where we are now, honor who we were then, and realize we're not the same people. We can make different choices. We're in different situations. I know I'm in a completely different situation now than I was then. So as these themes start to return, because we're dealing with a retrograde, so all those REs, and then we're working with Venus, which has to do with relationships and values, beauty, finances. So these things are going to come back to us, but in a very different way, right? And Leo, it's dramatic, it's heart or ego driven. There's that light and shadow. And it likes to be seen, it likes to be heard. Think of the roar of the lion, right? So here we are, Venus retrograding through this flamboyant, bigger than life energy. And it's having to be a little more internal. It's having to be a little stunted in it. So there's that push and pull, especially with the Sun and Mercury in Leo as well. We've got things to say, we got things to do, we got creative expression. Now we get to do it differently than we would have 8 years ago. Following? Are you tracking this? Yeah. So now we also, during the Venus retrograde, we may be forced to have really courageous conversations during this time. Some truths get revealed. Maybe we reveal something more truthful. People from our past, relationships from the past could show back up. Pay attention in particular to fixed signs. If you have natal signs that are in fixed signs, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, you're going to be affected the most by this. And so just pay attention if your nervous system is being super heightened at this time, especially if there's an attachment style that gets triggered during this time. You have a past relationship that comes back, that maybe there was betrayal, maybe there was disloyalty, maybe there was a lot of questioning, ghosting that often happens, which creates mistrust. All these things can come back for you to address differently at this time, and to be able to speak your truth and maybe end it for good. Yes, it could be you cut that person out of your life. It also could be that you set those boundaries. Maybe you reveal to them, hey, I've moved on and I have a significant other. Some of you may find that you were hoping a relationship would come back, and when they do, they're revealing to you that they have gotten married or they moved to another country or whatever. I mean, it's not always comfortable energy. I can tell you that. Now, it doesn't always have to be that way. There can be some really good things that come back, that maybe you've been looking for some resources that will help benefit you in relationship. Maybe you and your beloved have been struggling for a while, and you finally decide, or they decide to agree to go to counseling, couples counseling together, and you get some new resources and new ways of communicating with each other. There's great benefits to that. This is also a time where you're allowed to feel what you feel. I mean, at any time you're allowed to feel what you feel, but the emotions really get stirred up, and you need a place to express that. So do so, find that healthy outlet. Now, one thing you don't want to do during Venus retrograde, it's not a time to make permanent changes in your life, right? So if you're, let's say, yes, you can grow your hair out, but let's just say you decide to shave your head and you once had, really long hair. It's a pretty drastic change. I would say it's great to experiment, though, play around with things like maybe you just go a couple inches shorter, things like that. Or you do change color your hair, but only do like a demi-gloss, not a permanent kind of color, things like that. I wouldn't get a tattoo at this time. Wait until Venus stations direct and moves out of shadow for things like that, because very often there's regrets that happen. If you start a relationship during a Venus retrograde, take your time with it. Things will get revealed over time. Not everything is as it appears to be. So vet it out. But that shouldn't stop you from living life. Again, just take your time. If you are, let's say you're looking at a marriage, right? A wedding during this time, perfectly fine to get married and all of that. But just know there may be some things that get revisited down the road or revealed later on that you're like, wow, I didn't realize that, and it doesn't have to be anything dramatic, even though we are dealing with the sign of Leo, but just be aware. It might be, let's just say, for example, that a family member attends the wedding and you find out later on that they were somebody else's biological parent or whatever. I mean, those kinds of things are dramatic, but also, it's not going to stop you and your beloved from having a good marriage, right? So all that to say, just be aware. If you can, try not to make any major decisions, major moves, major commitments during Venus retrograde Leo, unless, again, it's something that you've been visiting and toying around with, and you've already had it in motion beforehand. Nothing new, let's put it that way. It's very similar to a Mercury retrograde. You really don't want to start anything new or launch anything new during a retrograde like that. But what I can say is, if you do, get your warranties, get your guarantees, make sure you have somebody else kind of back you up, that sort of thing. All right, you guys, I hope this helps. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Come find me at jamiedawn.com. I do look forward to connecting with you. As a reminder, I am out of office from July 14th through the 30th, serving in my role as staff director for Nine Gates Mystery School. If you need me, please reach out. We'll schedule something for when I get back. Also, scheduled appointments are king, I'm going to use the Leo analogy. Scheduling appointments with me are king right now. I am booked out. But I really want to be able to connect and be with you. So please find me at jamiedawn.com. Check out 12 Radio, 12 Listen, and I look forward to connecting with you guys in the future. Take care.